Hello guys, welcome to my Nightblade healer build. Updated for the moment it's high isle, but I honestly don't think it's gonna change anytime soon, but the latest update is high isle. It's a build that I made mostly for when I play solo, but it can also be played in small scale and battleground. I have tested it in a bit of everything and it works just as fine. So it's pretty versatile. You can play it in like almost absolutely every PvP game mode. It's more suited for small scale or battleground, but you can adapt it to pretty much any kind of healer content for PvP. So let's get right into the details. As expected, this is my Oakensoul build for my Nightblade, which is why it's updated for high isle. So it does have the Oakensoul Mythic, which grants you a whole lot of major buffs, but prevents you from bar swapping. So what it does, while we have this antiquity equipped, as you could already see in my skill bar, I literally just have one bar. I cannot bar swap, and once you have this equipped, you cannot hit bar swap at all. It doesn't work and it does absolutely nothing. So to compensate the fact that you only have one bar, this mythic gives you a lot of other buffs, and I will show you how I worked around this mythic to make it one of my absolute strongest Nightblade builds to date. So Oakensoul. We have this mythic in Swift with a potion cooldown reduction, because I am playing once again, as you can already see, with Arkasis. And what Oakensoul does is, while equipped, you are unable to bar swap between your primary and your backup weapon, which means bar swap does not work. However, you gain a lot of major and minor buffs, including minor berserk, minor courage, which are gonna be some small damage buffs, major brutality, major sorcery, major prophecy, major savagery, which are gonna be your big healing output buffs, minor force, minor protection, major resolves, minor mending, minor fortitude, minor intellect, minor endurance, minor heroism, and it was added with the nerf with Lost Death, minor slayer, and minor aegis, as well as empower. So what does this do? This will pretty much make your skill bar look like a real nightmare. So what I can advise you to do is just take permanent effects into combat off, because if you leave them on, that's how your bar is gonna look like. Yes, this is your bar, and I can tell you to just keep up your hearts. It's gonna be a nightmare. So first thing you do if you want to try this build is go into options, go into combat, permanent effects, and take them off, as these effects will never leave. So this is pretty much just going to be information you do not need. You will just have your hearts, your food, your vampire stage, which is pretty much most of what you need for this build anyways. And your debuffs and buffs you have that last for a certain time, of course. So for the sets, as you could already see, I am applying pretty much the same Lamia Arkasis sets I used to play on my Nightblade and I released over a year ago. The build is still playable and I have an updated version of it if you don't want to play this build on one bar. However, with Oakensoul and the fact that you gain minor heroism out of it makes this build shine more than anything else. I have to admit, when it came out, the Mythic, I wasn't that excited to get it, but I did get it in the end because, like everyone else, I wanted to give it a try. And I was really surprised on how strong it was. Back when you still had major heroism and major protection, it was ridiculous. But with the nerf and the change to some major buffs to get the minor versions like Protection and Heroism, and the adding of the minor mending, which is the healing, 6% more healing done. It actually, for healers, the Mythic is still incredibly strong because of the mending buff. You actually have almost higher healing output as the version before. The big difference is you are not as tanky, which was to be expected, and you don't get ulti as fast, so you're a bit more than just an ulti bot, if I can say so, because that's what it was before, and that's what I was before, but now I'm a bit updated. So anyway, I am playing, again, like I said, Arkasis and Lamia. Arkasis is the heavy set you can get from the Stone Garden DLC. So what it does, it's a heavy set. It gives you maximum health for the 2-piece, armor for the 3rd piece, and again maximum health for the 4th piece. And whenever I drink a potion while I'm in combat, me and up to 3 group members gain 44 ultimate every 30 seconds. So when I'm in combat, this is important, and I drink a potion, if I'm in a 4-man group, everyone will get ultimate every 30 seconds when I drink a potion. If I am in a bit bigger group, it will pretty much take the 3 people that are closest, or sometimes it's just completely random. I wish this would have a smart proc. I honestly do wish that if you were in a bigger group, it would actually always give the ultimate to the people who have the lowest ultimate at the time of when you drink the potion. That would be incredible. That would be an incredible buff to Arkasis. Let's see what the future holds, but that's something I would personally love to see. But anyways, I'm just digressing. So for Arkasis, I am wearing the head, the chest, and the feet, everything divine, tri-stat enchantment. And for the 2 other pieces that I am missing, I am wearing the amulet and the ring. My whole jewelry set is in Swift, with enchantment reduction of potion cooldown, which brings my global potion cooldown to 30 seconds, down to 30 seconds from 45, which is perfect because it absolutely aligns with the Arkasis cooldown, which means every time I drink a potion, no matter what, I will always get the Arkasis proc when I'm in combat, obviously. And for the second set, I didn't really change much. It's still Lamia, and Lamia I am wearing it on the staff, which counts as a 2-piece, and of course, since I have heroism, minor heroism with Oakensoul, my staff is in decisive, which every 2 seconds when I get an ultimate point, I will most of the time get another ultimate point. And this proc also applies to Arkasis. So when I'm drinking, I'm getting more ultimate because my staff is decisive. If you want to maximize your healing output, you can probably also swap it for powered, but you won't have your Resto ulti as fast. I didn't do the math to see the difference, how fast you can get, if it's really worth it, but I can tell you that the difference in healing will be quite significant. But personally, I'd rather have my Resto ultimate fast because I am playing with Lamia, rather than having a little bit more healing for this build specifically. So Lamia, what does it do? Where do you get it? You get it from Arx Corinuim, which is one of the normal basic dungeons. It is a light set, which is why I'm wearing it mostly on the small pieces and the staff. So it gives me maximum magicka, magicka recovery and maximum magicka, and every time the bonus, every time when I use an ultimate ability, me and my group members within 20 meters are healed for 32 health and restore 25 maximum magicka and stamina per ultimate spent. So This is pretty much every time I use an ultimate, I just heal and restore resources to my teammate. And I guess you can already see where this is going with Arkasis and decisive trait. I'm just throwing restoration staff ultimates to get my teammates healing and resources up. The shoulder, which is my medium piece, for my Untitled passive I am playing with Magma Incarnate because it gives me Magicka recovery and stamina recovery, but you can just play with pretty much anything your build needs. I know some people like to play with One Piece Symphony or One Piece Troll King for the extra healing done, or go with One Piece Baron Zoldas for the tri-stat bonus, or just even go with plain weapon and spell damage. But that's up to you. This is pretty much very free. You can just take whatever you fancy or you think the build is missing. I just like the extra recovery, and so I just went with Magma, but you can just pretty much take anything there. And the small pieces, which means the shoulder, the belt, the gloves, and the shoes, are all impenetrable with enchantment Maximum Magicka. For the skills, it's pretty much straightforward. I'm having Mirage, mostly because of the Major Evasion, which is still a huge buff, and it enables me also to change my champion points around it. It also grants me Minor Resolve because I took the Mirage morph and not the Blur morph. Blur frees you from, gives you small CC immunity, but I'd rather have Minor Resolve instead. Also, it's got a slight buff with update 35, one of the small things that actually got buffed and not nerfed into the ground, which now, when you take direct damage, it reduces the cost of my next roll dodge by 10% up to a maximum of 100%. And I can get one stack every half a second, so if I'm getting heavily focused, which I do almost always, I rank up these stacks pretty high and I can almost roll dodge for free. So this is your buff skill pretty much, which you mostly have up most of the time. The cooldown was shortened a little bit. It used to be 28 seconds, now it's 20, but it's still very good, and it's in the shadow passive tree. The second skill is Radiating Regeneration. That's pretty much a healer's bread and butter, so you pretty much see this in all the builds. It's in Restoration tree. It's the second skill, and it's the morph that goes on your allies as well as yourself. Next in line is Echoing Vigor. This is in the Assault tree. It is the AoE healing pretty much for you and your groupmate. It was heavily nerfed with update 35 again, but it's still absolutely viable because of Oakensoul. Let me be clear, because Oakensoul gives you so many damage buffs as well as minor mending. It's still absolutely worth it using Echoing Vigor as a spammable. It will also help you a little bit with Magicka sustain, because it doesn't draw onto your Magicka pool. My defensive skill is Elusive Mist, as I am playing as a vampire stage 3 at all times, or until my buff runs out and I'm in the middle of the fight and I'm in deep shit, but most of the time I'm stage 3. This is pretty much my defensive how can I put this, movement ability. I also use it as a healing buff because of the shadow passives. When I use it and I come out of mist form, I get a huge buff to weapon and spell damage, which I will show you straight away what I mean. It strikes from the shadow, and I get 300 weapon and spell damage for 6 seconds after I leave mist form, so it can be a very viable option when you are under very heavy fighting. Let me go out of here, a bit more space, to just have, I guess you can see the buff. Activate your buff shortly. The best you can do is before you use Resto ulti. That's where you get the most out of your Resto ulti, because your weapon and spell damage is gonna be at its very highest. But yeah, Mist Form is your movement ability and your block. As I do not have Sword and Bolt because I can't bar swap, I usually don't block a lot because it's a big drain on magicka. So you just use movement and Mist Form as a block instead of just pressing block, I guess. And my last skill is my healing oh shit button. It's a shrewd offering. It's the other morph of unhealthy offering. I rolled back the morph because I have minor mending now with Oakensoul. I don't need the morph that gives me a mending buff, which I already have, so I just went with shrewd offering morph because it actually just makes the skill a little bit cheaper, and I do not get any advantage for taking the other morph anymore, so why not take this one instead? But pretty much it's just your big heal. It drains a little bit of your health, but it's absolutely insignificant. And it also enables you to proc your siphoning passive from Nightblade, which gives you a little bit of ultimate every 4 seconds. So every now and then, when you can, even if nothing's going on and you don't have ulti, don't forget to use Shrewd Offering just to activate this passive. For the champion points, I haven't really changed anything. For the green CP, you can pretty much put anything you like. The only CP I really recommend is liquid efficiency, since you will be drinking potions a lot, believe me. This will still make a substantial difference. It doesn't read that much, it's just 10%, but believe me, this is gonna be making a difference in the long run. The blue CP, which is probably the most interesting, I didn't really change almost anything. I'm still running Foresight, which is one of the CPs where my recovery is coming from, because as you will see in the attribute sheet, I'm running something like 700 magicka and stamina recovery, and yet I almost never run out. This is partly thanks to Foresight, which reduces the cost of my stamina and magicka healing ability for 6 seconds tremendously. So this is gonna make a big difference, and it doesn't have a cooldown. So every time you drink a pot, the 6 next seconds your heals is gonna be free, almost. Second, the 3 other CPs, like second, third and fourth, are just defensive CPs. I'm just going with the bread and butter, which is Duelist Rebuff, Ironclad and Resilience. I'm not playing with the AoE CP reduction. What's its name again? Unassailable. I'm not running Unassailable on this build because I have Mirage, and since the CP got nerfed, it used to be 8% and it got reduced to 6%. I'd rather take Ironclad, which is more versatile and it covers direct damage rather than just AoE damage, and get my AoE mitigation from Mirage, which is 20% with major evasion reduction, which is way more anyways. For the attributes, I am putting 32 points into health and 32 points into magicka and 22 points into health. This is mostly because I personally like having my health sitting up quite nicely at 32k. This is down also to personal preference. If you want to have a little bit more, you can still put a little bit more into health, but since we don't have any skills that scale with health, you don't necessarily need to put a lot of points and getting your health up to like 35 or 36k, which like I have on some other builds. I will also quickly go over the passives. Since we only have 5 skills, you do not need all the passives. For assassination, obviously you need a mirage, and you're taking the 4 passives here because you will proc almost everything. The one that interests you the most is Hemorrhage, because when you deal damage, which is light attacks and heavy attacks for us healers, it will grant you and the group minor savagery. You don't really need it since you run Oakensoul, but your group mates will probably be thankful if they don't have it already. Shadow skill, you just need refreshing shadows. We do not use a single skill of the shadow tree because obviously I can only have 5 skills, so I had to make choices. However, you're still using the refreshing shadows, which increases our recovery by 15%. All the others are only active if you have a skill slotted, which we do not have, so there's no need to have the other passives. From the siphoning tree, there once again, I'm just playing on Shrewd Offering, but you take all the other passives, which is Catalyst, Magicka Fall, Soul Siphoner, and a Transfer. Oh, and for the ultimate, before I forget, I am running Life Giver, which is the morph where when I cast it, it automatically casts Blessings of Protection, Steadfast Ward and Regeneration at no cost. So you just have to remember, even if you don't have the skills slotted, you should take and morph them. Because when you use Life Give Ultimate, these skills will all be cast. The reason why I took Healing Ward is I just like a little bit of extra heals, and most of the time, since I am the center of the healing, I do not need the other morph that gives me a ward for myself and for an ally. I do not need it since I am the center of healing. If I can't heal myself up, then probably I'm gonna die no matter what, and the little shield is not gonna do anything. Combat Prayer, I use it, it's more of a personal choice. It grants minor berserk to my allies when I use it, and I sometimes like to use it on a push, just for the extra buff to damage. And Cyrodiil minor berserk is 3.5% instead of 5, so it's heavily reduced because of the battle spirit modifiers, but still I like to have it, and I compared my healing text. It does make a little bit of a difference, but it's less than 100 points per healing tick, so for me it's not really useful, but it's more for my allies. If you want to take the blessings morph, which is the other morph, you can also take this one. The difference with it mostly is the healing is a little bit bigger, and the uptime of minor resolve is way longer. But that's personal preference. I like Combat Prayer on this build because I like to push it offensively sometimes, give us this few seconds of near immunity to damage, as well as the damage buff is really nice. Restoration, Staff Ulti, we take all the passives, obviously. Other things, since we're running 3 light armor pieces and 3 heavy armor pieces, in terms of armor, as well as 1 medium, we take everything. Vampire, you take the 5 first passives, or 4 first passives. We don't really need a natural movement because we never play on stage free. And other passive, Undaunted, because of the armor distribution. And where is it again before I forget? There it is. Also, don't forget to grind up your alchemy to level 15 and make use of medicinal use passive, because when you're using potions, the resulting effects last for 30% longer. It does make a big difference on potions, because your potion uptime is gonna be, your potion buff uptime is gonna be longer than your potion cooldown. Another thing I need to talk about before I wrap this up is quick slot. You will have to work a little bit on your quick slot, obviously, here, because it's the most efficient when you have several types of potions. So what I do, I usually very often have my food slotted for quick slot, because I usually play longer than 3 hours in a row, so I like to have access to my quick food fast. What I can recommend is having a little bit of everything. Having a stamina potion slotted is bread and butter. You will need it. There's just fights where you just have to drink stamina pots instead of magicka pots. Tristat is most of the time going to be your main potion. If you can craft them, if you have enough resources, go for it. But crown Tristat potions is also just working fine. And lastly, I always have Essence of Immovability. Personally, I play with those who give me health and stamina back, since I am playing on restoration stuff. Although I have a stamina enchant on it, I do not have any way to get back stamina except, well, waiting and potions. So I like to play with Essence of Immovability if really I have a need, or I play in a more coordinated group that plays around CC immunity. I like to have these, and I also really recommend getting used to slotting potions and swapping potions in between fights. Or in the middle of the fights. This will be very handy once you get more used to playing with the quick slot wheel. Another thing I recommend getting used to once you get a little bit more experience really is try and get into the habit of drinking your potion when you're jumping. You cannot do anything else when you're in the air, so it can be very helpful to just drink your potions when you're jumping or at the end of a roll dodge. That's what I like to do best when I need to quick slot my wheel, or when I need to change. I just jump, quick slot, and then drink. Or I just sprint, jump, quick slot, and then drink, and keep sprinting. Because you cannot drink while sprinting. You cannot use objects if you're running, or if you're in mist form. So I'd recommend trying to get used to using your potions when you're jumping and you're in the air. It will help you when you are into heavy action and you need to sprint or go from one location fast to the other, to just make a little jump, drink your pot, and you're fine. You can keep sprinting again. You don't have to, oh, I need to stop sprinting and then I take my pot, but I'm slow. It kind of breaks the movement. And before I forget, one thing I actually almost forgot. For this build, where is it? The MUNDUS stone I am running is the ritual, which with 3 pieces divine increases my healing done by 10%. Where is it? It's 10% with 3 pieces of divine. If you feel a little bit squishy, you could also go every piece on Impen and just have 8%. But I feel confident enough personally to play with 3 pieces divine in order to maximize my healing output. The other thing is, since I am an Argonian, which is probably also why I can afford to play with Ritual Mundus, with the passives to the racial passives to Argonian, I always get a little bit more maximum magic and stamina back when I drink a potion. So this is also clearly helping me personally, and this is the reason why I am playing Nightblade healer as Argonian. I don't really like the lizard races, but the passive on potion is just too reliable to not have it or just sit on it. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it for this build. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to let me know in the comment section. If there's things I didn't explain clearly or I've been over a little bit too fast, don't hesitate to let me know.